It's on the mouse. It's a click.
Hey, folks. Thanks for tuning in to the BAMF podcast with your host, Mike Lafferty, and frequent co-host, Jacob Blackman. Jacob, how are you doing?
I am well.
You are well. All right. You know what time it is, Jacob?
It's time to talk about disaster movies.
It is, but first...
Speaking of disasters...
You thought it was done. Just like certain other things we could mention. You think they're done, but they come back. Welcome to this episode of BAMF Movie Talk. We're talking about disaster movies today, and we will be touching on how they can provide inspiration to RPGs in different ways. So, Jacob, do you want to do top 3 favorite disaster movies, top 3 least favorite disaster movies? What's your pleasure on this?
I hadn't really gone into a top 3. I suppose I could. I'd really thought of my one favorite disaster movie, but I'm sure I could. I'm sure I could come up with a couple more in there, and
Right,
and certainly some of the worst, because there are so many bad disaster movies out there.
Well, I blame the Sci-Fi Network for that. There are a lot of those I see a lot of bad disaster movies made for Sci-Fi.
Oh, they're just most of the movies you can point to on Sci-Fi are just terrible films, and most of them are so forgotten that they don't even have Wikipedia entries.
They just cranking like Instagram, cranking out that content.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I've realized why I hate Instagram. I remember being told back in the day that they always told people in movies and TV shows not to look directly in the camera because it makes people uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I realized, like every other video on YouTube is somebody looking right in the camera, cracking jokes or trying to sell you something, or trying to give you their little, homily, whatever the fuck they're talking. Yeah, it's a bit much after a while.
It is.
I mean, social media in general. So, shall we define the disaster movie genre? How do you know if it's a disaster movie or
Disaster movies for me usually involve some kind of natural disaster as the central plot. That could be, earthquakes, tornadoes, floods. For some reason, something major is happening, and it's gonna destroy a lot of buildings. It's gonna kill a lot of people, and it's gonna ruin lives. And there are some pretty good movies out there that have been made with based on disaster movies, and others that are less so. Some of these, I love the classification that I recently looked at on Wikipedia for this, because they have a list of disaster films and a nice definition by category, which is pretty amusing here. Let me read this off.
Mm-hmm.
Man-made disasters, natural disasters, end of days, apocalypse films.
Mm-hmm.
Airplanes. There is a huge category about airplanes.
Any shark-related disaster movies?
I believe those would fall under natural disasters.
Mm-hmm. Is Jaws a disaster movie?
I don't believe so, no.
How about Gravity?
That would I think be more classified under general horror.
Mm-hmm. Okay, how about Gravity?
Gravity. Let me see if it's on the list here.
And that's 11 years old now. Good Lord. But
I do not see Gravity here. No.
I mean, I think it's more of a. I mean, it's probably categorized better as a thriller, but it is an astronaut, and although we're focused on her specific individual journey as she deals with a catastrophe, I mean, it's There's a
I'm
space
not sure there. I'm not sure there was enough people in the movie or enough destruction of national monuments
Mhm.
to be for it to be considered a disaster film.
Really? Okay. Well, Godzilla movies then. Iconic thrillers or disaster movies, or a little bit of
Yeah.
both.
Yeah.
Cloverfield.
Again,
Cloverfield.
that's a monster movie. That is not a disaster movie.
But it feels like a disaster movie. The city is in peril. People are evacuating. There's National Guard troops.
That again, you have to look at uh, the type of thing that is being presented. And
Mhm.
usually, like I said, usually this is some sort of natural phenomena
Mhm.
is out of control and and going beyond what is normally seen.
Mhm. I was reading an interview with the director of Godzilla Minus One, and he had a meeting recently with Kevin Feige at Marvel, who told him they're obsessed with Godzilla Minus One and trying to bring that same kind of energy to the Marvel Universe,
Hmm.
which reminded me a lot of Batman Cataclysm from the late 90s, where an earthquake decimates Gotham City, and it's followed by No Man's Land, where
Yep.
Bruce Wayne's trying to keep control in the wreckage, in the ruins of Gotham after the federal government has abandoned the city.
Which would never happen. The instant the federal government declares a city not American soil, so we don't have to deal with it again. You know what happens then? Another country comes in, says, "Hey, we'll fix up your city. You're now our territory, though."
Yeah,
The American government would never stand for that. The American
uh,
government would never do it.
I can think of recent examples where a sitting president declined to send federal resources to deal with
Oh,
disaster.
there's nothing about the declining to send resources to help.
Mhm.
I'm talking about the whole this is no longer considered American territory
Okay,
part of the story.
so you filthy Danes, keep your hands off it. This is still
Hmm.
part. Yeah, I get you. So, all right. So, what is your favorite disaster movie, sir?
Okay, if I really have to narrow this down, I'm probably going to have to go with Dante's Peak.
Oh, I am not familiar with that one. What happens?
Dante's Peak is a mid to late 90s volcano disaster film. And the it stars Pierce Brosnan and Linda Hamilton. And the idea is there is a beautiful, lovely town in the Pacific Northwest that has been built on what they believe to be a extinct volcano, and and it's ideal, and it's just had all these awards for how lovely the town is. And Pierce Brosnan comes in to investigate some recent seismic activity because he is a volcanologist, and tells them this thing is gonna blow any second now. And sure enough, the volcano erupts, and it for one of the many volcano disaster films out there, it really does follow a lot of the proper scientific rules for how a volcano operates when it is in the stages of near eruption to actual eruption. The only real problematic scene I had was a scene where they are driving over slightly cooled lava, and then the tires sink underneath, and start revving in the lava that's underneath, and it's like, well, that you're done. And I'm sorry, those tires would have melted as soon as they were on the semi-cooled lava, because I don't think you understand how hot lava is. That would have melted those tires instantly. You have to be in special suits just to be standing, a couple 100 feet away from lava, and it's still considered uncomfortably hot. So, yeah. But otherwise, good film. Good film. I enjoyed it.
Understood. I was going to say Twisters, but
Twisters is also a good film.
Is it really a disaster movie though?
It is, yes.
But the focus isn't really on the disaster, is it? It's more on the interpersonal relationship.
As long as the disaster element is the central part of the plot, and the fact that these are tornado hunters trying to study tornadoes, it's all perfectly fine, because it's still considered a disaster movie, as you see plenty of disaster and destruction happening due to the tornadoes.
Mm.
I can't say I can't talk to the most recent Twister sequel that just came out. I haven't seen it, but the original Twisters, the original Twister from 1996, was good.
Yeah, I actually saw Twisters. Like everything else in the 80s, they had to reboot it, and it reminds you of the original movie in a few pleasant ways. I can't remember the names of any of the characters, even this week after having seen it. So yeah, it's that kind of reboot.
Honestly, for a lot of movies like this, I don't remember the names of characters. I remember the actors who were in it, and usually the part they played, not so much the names of the characters they played.
The only person, Paul Scheer, plays a airport security guard who hassles one of the main characters at the very end. And so yeah, I don't know. It was okay, but I don't know if I could pick a favorite disaster movie. I saw one in 2015. Now, this sounds pretentious as hell, but it's a Norwegian disaster movie.
Okay.
And a lot of Scandinavian movies, everyone dies, and there's one person left at the end to tell the story. This is actually a much happier Scandinavian movie, in that only a bunch of people die, but also a handful are left alive. The fjords in Norway. This movie deals with the collapse of a fjord and causes a tsunami-like wave that rockets up, the fjord, and swamps several small towns. So it was different. I mean, because this is a trope-heavy genre.
Yeah.
I mean, usually you know what's going to happen before it happens, and it's it was okay. I think I'm really interested in the disaster genre more for when it intersects with other things, like Cloverfield is a monster movie and the disaster movie. Pacific Rim kind of fits into that. Independence Day is an intersection, sits at the intersection of disaster movies and science fiction movies.
I don't consider Independence Day a disaster movie. It's an alien invasion movie.
Well, okay, that's fair. Godzilla -1.
Again, monster movie. It is a monster movie that is supposed to be indicative of a disaster movie. It is just using the monster in place of what the actual disaster is, which in the case of Godzilla, the original Godzilla at least, being nuclear bombs. Whereas when you're considering one of the newer Godzillas, Shin Godzilla, that movie was using Godzilla as a term for climate change. And the disastrous weather patterns, like giant tsunamis and more intense hurricanes that we've been seeing recently.
I feel you. Well, speaking of the intersection of disaster with other genres, look at this, tinyurl.com/disasterdayRPG. It is the Mutants and Masterminds adventure written by our friend Jacob Blackman here, called Superpowered Legends Adventure Disaster Day. Jacob, tell us about this.
Disaster Day is an introductory adventure that I wrote for my Superpowered Legends setting. It fits in the timeline in the summer of uh, 2016, which is a period when a lot of heroes, a lot of the major heroes, were disappearing. And in the midst of all this, a massive earthquake strikes New York City out of nowhere. And with none of the major heroes showing up, you, as the player character heroes, who maybe you've been uh, uh, maybe you've just started, maybe you've been around a couple of months, but you are the starting heroes, uh, have to pick up the slack and take care of all the injured people, and all the car wrecks and looting and everything that carries on because of the earthquake that has devastated the city. And it involves a lot of things, like uh, there are some gangs you have to take care of who are doing looting.
Mhm.
There are a lot. There's a scene at the very beginning where each of the character gets an opportunity to do a scene where they specifically shine, and then all of them come together to take care of something that's happening towards the middle of the city, where a giant fissure has opened up at Central Park, and subterranean Morlocks and riding dinosaurs are attacking the city from the fissure. And this is the chance where they all get to come together and work as a team.
That is pretty cool. This kind of reminds me of Cataclysm. Of course, this has got more of a Marvel flavor with there being Morlocks in the sewers and whatnot.
Hmm.
But yeah, no, that is pretty cool. I like that, and it's a silver seller, so it's got some love on Drive Through RPG, and
Yep.
we're scrolling through it here. The preview, anyway, you can see all that beautiful Jacob Blackman art in there, and
Indeed.
you can pick it up right now. Oh wait, so what's this aquatic stuff going on here?
Over the course of the adventure, you find out that the earthquake was not a natural phenomenon, but in fact set off by an evil villain organization known as the Horde.
Mm,
And they have threatened to utilize their earthquake machines on more cities if the United States does not capitulate to their demands. So your heroes must infiltrate the Horde base in order to shut off their machines. And there's a variety of ways you can do it. You can go for the air, you can go into the sea. However, it is all based on the various different powers and abilities whatever the heroes can manage.
okay, that is pretty cool. And while we're talking about superheroes dealing with disasters in an RPG context, let's take a look at your article you wrote, tinyurl.com/Jacob Volcano. Let me share the screen with this and tell us what this is about.
Uh, the Volcano Guidelines for Mutants and Masterminds.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that I just wrote on a whim one day because I was tired of seeing movies where people were running from a volcanic pyroclastic cloud, being overcome by the pyroclastic cloud, and continuing to run inside it and surviving. This was very indicative of. I was seeing this happen in one of the Jurassic World films, and very soon after that, they kind of did it again in at the very end of season 1 of Lord of the Rings: Rings of Power, when Mount Doom exploded. So
what would actually happen to you in a pyroclastic cloud?
pyroclastic clouds are terrifying, and this is something I learned from watching Dante's Peak.
Mhm.
Um, Pyroclastic clouds travel if the volcano explodes and launches a pyroclastic cloud. It can travel between 50 miles per hour to upwards of 250 miles per hour as it collapses down the mountainside.
Mhm.
It is not just a cloud of dark soot. That is a solid wall of superheated gases, ash, rock, all about to hit you at between 50 to 250 miles per hour. So the instant it strikes you, you're going to be hit by that amount of force. Not only that, but once it overtakes you, it is so hot inside, upwards of 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit, that your body is flash cooked.
That
There,
doesn't
there,
sound
there
good.
are there are people who from and this was from studies of the ancient city of Pompeii, which was one of the great disasters of ancient times. Pompeii had people who were fossilized instantly because the pyroclastic cloud overtook them. And they were still in the position that they were when they when they were cooked by this thing.
So let me ask you,
But
Jacob.
meanwhile, in the movie, if you pan down a bit, you'll see, the picture of pyroclastic cloud flow traveling at 300 to 500 miles per hour. Chris Pratt not traveling 300 to 500 miles per hour as he's trying to run from it.
I
Um,
hear Chris run pretty fast, though. Just
but
saying.
but in the movie, the cloud overcomes him, and he and the dinosaurs are running through it. And I was like, you should be on fire right now. You should be cooked right now. That's not just ash you're running in.
Mhm. Interesting
But yeah,
stuff. So is
this
that just a save for death situation, or is it?
it was that particular event that led me to want to write out this guideline, which has all the sorts of different things that affect from a volcano. It has uh, intensity of earthquakes and how far you should feel them. How if the earthquake is strong enough to cause destruction. I have game mechanics in here for that. There is what's called tephra, which is when the when the volcano explodes and sends all the ash and soot in the air. Eventually, it comes all down. Just it looks
Like
like
Mount St. Helens?
it's raining ash. That's called a volcanic ashfall or tephra, and it impedes movement. It impedes visibility. It makes it so that it clogs up engines, so you can't get out from air travel. And then, of course, there's ballistic projectiles because sometimes when the volcano is shooting stuff out, it's launching little bits of hot rocks that come down and strike people from above. So yeah, that's terrifying.
All right. So once again, if you want to take a
There's dealing with realistic magma. So not only is it hot and producing an environment of intense and extreme heat around it, but it can be damaging. All that. That's a lot of what the guide tends to deal with is game mechanics for how to deal with all the things that happen around an erupting active volcano.
all right, so that's tinyurl.com/Jacob Volcano. If you're an M&M player, check it out right now. Free content. I think maybe you're going a little easy on them with the pyroclastic blast just being a blast effect 12. It sounds like that's more of a it's going to kill you instantly kind of situation.
Well, again, it depends on the intensity of on how powerful the how strong the pyroclastic cloud is coming at you. Yeah.
Well, I feel you. It's no fun when your character dies, especially in a superhero setting.
No.
But yeah, I get what you're saying. So, well, that is pretty. You know what? I think this would be a fun trope to export into fantasy role playing.
Yeah.
Like if you have your D&D party is getting ready to go rescue that keep on the borderlands, and all of a sudden an earthquake hits the town that you're in, and you got to help put out the fires and save the townspeople and deal with the threats and situations arising from that. So I don't know.
Honestly, there is a really good adventure that deals with that.
Well, I hadn't heard of that.
One of the first quote unquote adventure paths that was written by Wizards of the Coast when they had control of Dungeon Magazine involved a city that was supposed to be an extinct volcano, and the city was called Cauldron, and it was inside the volcano, the caldera of the volcano.
Okay.
And this place is your home throughout the majority of the adventure path you go to and from it. Everyone's very comfortable, very safe. This place has been here for 1,000 years, and over the course of the adventure, there's a conspiracy of evil people who eventually use a powerful ritual to sacrifice the city and cause it to erupt. So there's all sorts of volcano happenings in this adventure path, in one particular adventure where not only do you have to escape, but you're trying to help as many people as you can escape. And because it's a fantasy game, not only do you have to deal with the effects of the natural disaster, but there's lots of elemental forces that are tied to volcanoes. So fire elementals suddenly erupt everywhere, and you have to deal with those and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, I just want to touch on something else. Hawkeye Volume 2 Little Hits. This is the Matt Fraction run. There's one whole issue of this where it's just Hawkeye dealing with Superstorm Standy hitting New York City, helping members of his supporting cast. There's an old man whose home is getting flooded, and the police and emergency services, they're kind of busy. So he's helping deal with all those little life-sized, if you will, street level kind of emergencies. I mean, for the Hulk, this is probably 5 minutes work, but for Hawkeye, it's a very long, exhausting day. So it was a really nice break in that story. This is what the recent TV show took some inspiration from this. This is the run with Pizza Dog and the Tracksuit Draculas. Remember those? So yeah, it's good. It touches on it's something we're all aware of. I mean, a couple times a year in the Midwest, you have to look up at the sky and go, "Oh shit, there's a tornado! I better get inside." But here in Colorado, the governor declared an emergency about a day and a half ago, activated the National Guard, and I'm getting 7 inches of snow falling outside right now.
That's pretty early for snow.
We usually get a light snow in October. For this much snow, it's a little early. Usually, it's more into March when we get this kind of quantity. But it's something that happens in life that you don't always see represented in the tabletop RPGs. So it makes for a nice change of pace and a lot of role playing opportunities.
Okay. Yeah.
And
If I agree with that. Anytime you want to make something a little more interesting, it's just, I've got these villains, but my heroes are just going to run roughshod over them. Throw in a natural disaster. Have the villains be doing something during a flood. So not only do you have to contend with them, you have to contend with whatever is going on with the natural disaster.
Yeah, it's like that movie from the 90s, Hard Rain. You're dealing with bank robbers raiding a town during a massive flood. So another element to deal with. There was an indie comic a couple years back. I forget who did it. It was called Kaiju Heist. And the whole idea was it's a world where kaiju exist, and there's an organization like NOAA that tracks them. And these guys would, all right, so man was getting hit by a level 4 kaiju. We're going to go and raid all the museums and banks while that's happening.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of a cool idea.
That's a cool idea.
Yeah. I've been
Speaking of which, that might lead me to my third, since you asked for three, my third favorite disaster film, which is Crawl.
What's Crawl?
Crawl might be considered a monster movie, as it is about alligators in a crawl space underneath a house. But the central focus is it takes place during a hurricane and the flooding of a neighborhood, which is why the beasts become a little more dangerous as the movie goes, because more flooding brings the alligators closer to the people. Oh. And honestly, it's a good movie. At no point in the movie do the alligators act supernatural or preternatural. They act as alligators the entire film. I was very happy about it.
This is a Sam Raimi movie.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, all right. Well, I'll check that out. Maybe the wife would like that. So, all right, that is a cool. Yeah, it's there's a lot you can do with this. It's a very transportable trope. It fits into a lot of other situations. It'll be a lot of fun. Add a little spice to things. Well, I think we've talked this subject dry, Jacob. What do you think?
You haven't mentioned any of the films you've enjoyed.
Flood, which was Wave, that was a 2015.
Okay. Twisters.
Yeah, Twisters, and if I gotta go with another one, boy, what was that Tommy Lee Jones volcano movie?
It's called Volcano.
Yeah, that was
the one that where volcano erupts in Los Angeles. Yeah, that's called Volcano.
Yeah, that wasn't great.
That came out at the same time, pretty much the same time as Dante's Peak. You could tell that the volcano erupting in urban environment script was being shipped around Hollywood that year.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Day After Tomorrow is memorable, but it's also not very good.
No, it's not. Like I said, there are a ton of really bad ones. If I had to name one of the worst and yet incredibly entertaining disaster films, that would probably be a toss-up for me between The Core from 2003 or 2012, which was a John Cusack disaster movie. Owen Stevens has a great explanation of how to approach watching 2012, and he told this to me before I saw it, and it made the entire movie much more entertaining than it had any right to be. Imagine, if you will, that for some reason John Cusack's character has angered the elemental gods, all of the major elemental gods, with the exception of the god of air. Proceed. because earthquakes try to kill him, fire tries to kill him, water and flooding tries to kill him, all throughout this entire movie. His only salvation is air.
Michael Mendoza is joining us. I hope you guys talk, because you and Mike.
Yes, we have spoken. Actually, I was talking to Owen recently. We were hanging out the other night, and we were mentioning that we need to send him a contract, because yes, we are going to hire him and get him to convert iconic legends. We just need to get a contract sent his way.
All right, good news. Like making things happen. Looking forward to seeing your work, Michael. And he says, have we mentioned Sharknado yet?
We have not mentioned Sharknado.
That is a disaster movie. And
that is a fantastically terrible disaster movie series.
I really enjoy the last one, Tara Reid's character. They have to time travel and in the far future. there's like a Tara Reid collective consciousness, and there's like Borg Tara Reid, and they have to defeat her to get back to. It doesn't make any sense, but
Hey,
um,
let's since we have the opportunity and it was brought up, let's where's that shark tsunami?
Sharkacane.
Sharkacane. Yes, that is something that we worked on together and would absolutely work here.
We've done a lot of books together, if you think about it, Jacob. We had several supernatural.
Yes, but this was special. This was the first one that we really worked on together.
Sharkacane bear. I like that idea a lot. A barricade, a Baronado. Oh my God, a Baronado. Oh, I like that.
Bear avalanche.
Bear avalanche. Let's talk about supernatural phenomenon. We did several of these. Supernatural phenomena 1, Sharkacane. Once again, for Mutants and Masterminds. This is a silver bestseller. I'm not sure how that happened, but yeah, this is basically like our friend Mike Mendoza was talking about. This is Sharknado for Mutants and Masterminds. This was a fun little book, and we had taking inspiration from our friends at the Sci-Fi Network. What do we call this one with the Snakequake?
Yeah.
And this is not a silver bestseller.
Well, it didn't have a movie series attached to it.
It did not, and yeah. So, but yeah, I think that's Aid did that cover. I might be mistaken.
I believe so.
And last,
and there was a third one.
There was the Orc Apocalypse. And I felt like this should have done. Oh wait, what's Michael saying? Wait, the Tornado's made up of black bears. Yell, and it will run away. Get your pots and pans. Everyone's get your trumpets.
I'm from Humboldt County. I am all too familiar with black bear encounters.
But yeah, Orc Apocalypse. Yeah, I thought this was going to be a bigger hit than it was. But this was a lot of fun to write. But yeah.
They were all fun to work on. It's just only Sharkacane had the movie tie-in, so we hit pretty well with that one. Not nearly as well as we did recently with Cocaine Owlbear.
Yeah, Cocaine Owlbear might be the thing I'm best known for in my entire sad little publishing career. So yeah.
Alas, that is not a disaster film. It is merely a monster movie.
Cocaine Owlbear Tornado.
That's a stretch. That's a stretch, man.
Maybe a blizzard. Maybe, but not a tornado. All right, I am starting to fade. I apologize. It was a long day out here with the snow shoveling and all that stuff.
No worries.
Michael Mendoza, good to see you, sir. Appreciate you being in the comments. And Jacob, always fun. Come back Sunday night. We are talking with the folks from Ghost Show Press. More movie talk, and we'll have some of the authors from their upcoming movie criticism anthology, and we'll be doing a deep dive on a few different horror movies. It should be a lot of fun. That should be 6:00 Mountain Time, I believe, on Sunday. So
yeah, considering the films they've reviewed, like the horror movies and some sci-fi movies, honestly, we should probably pitch Ghost Show Press doing something on disaster films.
They do have they're planning another Kickstarter for next year, so I'm sure they're debating different genres. I know they were considering doing a book all about musicals, and that got pooped. Yeah. You just got to find, all these things are possible. You got to find where the audience, what they're into. And we went back and did a second horror movie anthology because horror fans are dedicated and they'll, support the genre. So, Mike, good night to you too, sir. We'll catch you later, and we'll see you next time on the BAMF podcast.